Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is part 432 of my NFL ranking series, and for part 4, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Coming into last year, Seattle was 7-10, and towards the beginning of the season, there were rumors about Russell Wilson leaving, and then he got hurt, and then those got a little bit louder, and then as the season unfolded, so as I said, they finished 7-10, and then at the end of the season, they had Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson leave them. With those two leaving, those are basically the last two that were apart. They were basically the last two that were part of the Legion of Boom era, and now that they're all gone. Now with those two gone, it's looking like potentially that Seattle is looking at a future rebuild. They said they weren't going to rebuild. At least that's what Pete Carroll doesn't want, but with the roster they have right now, it's going to be hard to see how they aren't going to be able to do it. Also, when it comes to last year, I'm not even going to look at their team rankings just because Russell Wilson pretty much made that offense. No offense to everyone else. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett were really good as well, and then so was their running backs, but Russell Wilson was pretty much the offense, as he was the main key that got the team going. So with him not there, there's just no point in even looking at the rankings of their offense because it's not even going to be the same. When it comes to their schedules last year, you can see there was like a few games there that was kind of surprising that they ended up winning, but for the most part, that was with Russell Wilson at the helm and not anybody else. Yeah, when looking through, it looks like Geno Smith got one win in the few weeks he played, but the other 6 were responsible by Russell. But even then, I mean, watching Seattle last year, they were not the best. I mean, obviously you could tell by 7-10, but for example, there were games against Green Bay where they scored 0, but then there was like that game they had against the Titans at the beginning of the year that was 33-30. So this team was very up and down throughout the season, and for the most part, it honestly looked like they were going to be a fringe playoff team at first, within the first 2 weeks, and then they went on that little 3-game skid and lost Russell Wilson, and then basically that's where the season was lost, and then that's when all the rumors started happening that everyone was going to leave, or not everyone, but majority of the big names, and then, yeah, basically by the end of the season, they had 2 really strong games to finish out the year with wins. But basically, as soon as they hit the offseason, it was over. And then, yeah, in March, the Seahawks lost Russell Wilson, and then a little bit later, they lost Bobby Wagner. I believe that was the order. But basically, when they lost those two, it's pretty much the signing on the wall. For Bobby Wagner, he signed a deal with the Rams, and Russell Wilson ended up getting traded to the Broncos. That's basically how their season ended. When it comes looking into their next year's schedule, Week 1 is obviously probably going to be one of their biggest games of the year, as it looks like the first game of the year is going to be probably one of their biggest, as just looking at the ticket prices alone, it's the highest, and it's the only, when it comes to the tickets as low as, it's the only one that's in triple digits. Their first game of the year against Denver is probably going to be one of their biggest, obviously, as Russell Wilson comes back to town. Looking through the rest of their schedule, looking past the Broncos, I mean, regardless, I don't think they're going to win that game against the Broncos, but looking at the rest of the season, it just looks like it's going to be a very interesting year for them. When it comes to the starting quarterback, I don't know if they've really even named one yet between Drew Lock and Geno Smith, but between both of those two, I don't think they're going to get. They might do all right, but I don't think they're going to get them anywhere big. Some teams I could see them beating as of right now is, for example, maybe the Panthers. I don't know, maybe against the Jets, but yet again, I really don't know. They might beat Detroit, maybe. Basically, when it comes to looking at their schedule, I see them winning 5 games at best, and potentially, I think this team could maybe end up sliding worse than the Texans if they don't get very good quarterback play. The one reason I do have them a bit higher than the Texans is just because of some of the names they have on offense. I forgot actually to say Noah Fant, I guess, winning the trade as well. So they got some big name. Some of the big names on offense are DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant, and then when it comes to their defense, one of the key names they added was Uchenna Nwosu, and then they also added Artie Burns, and they also made sure to resign a few guys like Al Woods. So when it comes to looking through their depth chart and their offense, I mean, honestly, like, looking at some, obviously their offensive line play has been the issue the past few years. Looking at their receiving core, and they got a pretty good receiving core, and they got some pretty good running backs. It's just it's going to come down to how the quarterback play goes, and between Jacob Eason, Drew Lock, and Geno Smith, I don't think they're going to be able to get much done. I think their best chance of doing really anything is they have to sign a quarterback. I don't know if I don't think they're really linked to anyone as of right now. I think they made it sound like they're going to try out with who they got. Looking back at the depth chart and then going back to this, I think honestly, first off, I think they're in danger of being swept in their division this year. Their division's really, really competitive, and between the Rams, the Cardinals, and the 49ers, I think out of all the teams, they have a chance of maybe getting the Cardinals and 49ers just because both of those teams just tend to play bad sometimes against them. But I think this is one of the few teams in the league that is really in danger of getting swept in their division. I think at least like for the previous few teams I've done, I think the Panthers might be able to steal one with how all right their defense is. I think the Texans and Jaguars could each beat each other, but this is one of the few teams that I really don't know how they're gonna. I don't know how they're gonna win a game in their division. I mean, they're just looking at their depth chart again. They got some all right stars, but they got a few holes to fill. So when it comes to Seattle Seahawks, how they're gonna do this year, I believe they're gonna finish 5-12. That's honestly, I think that's being a little bit generous. I think they'll win a game or two, but this is gonna be, I feel like, a really, really rough year for Seattle Seahawks fans. Just mainly because of the quarterback play. They got enough around the quarterback to maybe help them out a little bit, except for offensive line. I believe they need to upgrade that a little bit more too. But when it comes to the other positions besides quarterback, they have a decent amount of people, and they have some decent enough big names to where I think they can be all right. It's just going to be more of, can the quarterbacks get them the ball, and can they put them in the right position? When it comes to strength of schedule, they are .517. They have one of the tougher schedules this year, and that does not mix well with having the quarterbacks that they do. Unless they sign someone bigger, basically, unless they get another quarterback who's a top-tier star, I think. Or not, they don't have to be a top-tier star. They just have to be pretty good. I think that the Seattle Seahawks are looking at a very rough year this year.